Good morning and welcome to Whiteboard Wednesdays. My name is Becc Holland. I'm the Regional Vice President of Business Development for Track by G2 Crowd. Little one-liner on us, we are a way for CFOs and CIOs to spring clean their tech stack. So basically surface what SaaS they're not using, what SaaS they have with redundant functionality, any kind of duplication payment, shadow IT, unauthorized apps, basically a quick way for CFOs and CIOs to consolidate their tech stack down into what their team actually needs and uses. Today, I wanted to cover a very special topic of event leads, content downloads, and webinar registrants. What to do with those leads, what to call them, who to send them to, and what they should say to them on the phone and via email to boost conversion. So without further ado, let's get going. The first item I wanted to cover is what to call them. So I call them, instead of, they're not truly inbound because they didn't come through they didn't request a demo and they didn't come through a chat box on your website, and they're not truly outbound because they know about your company to some degree because they either attended an event of yours, they either downloaded your content, or they were part of a webinar. So what I refer to them as is postbound leads. And the impetus behind naming them this, just a little short tidbit, is basically in basketball, you have a post that is usually, the post player is usually positioned somewhere in between the top of the key or the free throw line and the basket. And so I wanted to call them postbound because they're kind of in between. They're not truly an inbound and they're not truly an outbound. And again, this is content, downloads, webinar, registrants, and event leads. The second question is who to send them to and how to structure their outreach. So I could go either way on if they go to an inbound team or an outbound team. So if you send them to your inbound team is basically going to say, these are not true leads. These aren't someone who've requested a demo. This is someone who simply knows about our company, and they're correct in saying that. So if you send them to the inbound team, that's what they're going to say. If you send them to the outbound team, these are going to be actually a little more buyer ready than they're used to. So in either case scenario, for an inbound team, you want to have their lower priority because you have demo requests that they should be following up with first. And for outbound leads, they should be higher priority because the other alternative is they're talking to normal outbound leads who have no idea of who they are. So in either case scenario, they can go to each one of these teams, and I don't have too many thoughts on which team it should go to. But as far as how you can structure what you're doing with these leads, I would follow them in either case scenario. I would fill them into 3 different sequences or cadences dependent on which sales engagement tool you're using. So number 1, you can do your first sequence is high ICP, high engagement. And what I mean by that, high ICP, ideal customer profile, this is basically, a lot of when it comes to lead scoring or comes to a marketing team, a lot of them talk about lead scoring in terms of engagement, like this person has downloaded a lot of my content. But the biggest question the SDR wants to know, and the even bigger question that the AE wants to know is this a person that we actually want to talk to? Let's put how much they've engaged with my content aside. Is this someone that I ideally want to be selling to? So ICP is paramount for this. So the first sequence that I would put of prominence is high ICP, high engagement. This is someone who is a part of a company, that you really want to talk to. This is a persona that you really want to talk to. And they also are engaging with a lot of your content. They're downloading a lot of your stuff. The second sequence is going to be high ICP, low engagement. So this is someone who is, again, a part of a company that you really want to talk to. They are the ideal customer in terms of their role. This is someone that you really want to hunt. But maybe they aren't downloading as much of your content. So they're engaging a little bit. Maybe they were a part of one webinar, or they downloaded one article or one kind of resource. So there's still some activity. They do know who your company is, but they are the person that you want to talk to. So this would be the second sequence that I would follow. And then the third sequence is going to be low ICP, high engagement. So low ICP meaning this is not someone who's either a part of a company that is really attractive to me for whatever reason. Maybe they're not big enough, maybe they don't have the right tools, or this is not the level of title of person that I typically sell to. So maybe this is an intern, or maybe this is someone who isn't, for all intents and purposes, a part of a company. So where I've seen a lot of marketers and sales dev programs go wrong or struggle is they basically say, okay, I just got all these leads from marketing of people that downloaded my content, and the one variable that I can affect is volume of outreach that I send to them. So I'm going to call them 15 times, or I'm going to email them 100 times, to spike engagement. Number one, that's terrible for buyer experience. But number two, if I'm a grandmother in Wisconsin and I go stumble across some website accidentally and I download some content, it doesn't matter how many times you reach out to me or how many times you call me, I'm not going to buy. So this is the biggest variable that for some reason I've seen marketing teams and sales development teams kind of put by the wayside, is wondering, is this the person that we do want to talk to? So if it's someone who's a low ICP, not disqualified ICP, but lower ICP, maybe they're a little bit smaller than someone you would typically hunt or want to go after, but they are downloading a lot of your content, it's reasonably easy to say that this is a quick win. This is someone who we can probably sell to with relative ease, so it's worth the time because there won't be a huge time investment for my SDR team to go ahead and get this person into a meeting. As far as low ICP, low engagement, I would only kick them into nurture campaigns. I basically don't have my sales development team follow up on them because they're not an ideal person and they're not engaging with me that much. So I don't want them to be spending, my inbound or outbound team, spending too much time on them. The third most important piece is outreach strategy. I was on LinkedIn this weekend because that's a whole nother side issue of what I do with my personal time. But I was on LinkedIn this weekend and I saw someone from a sales manager from Thomson Reuters, who basically said, he had downloaded some content and then got barraged with follow-up and he didn't understand why. And I completely agree with him. So a marketing team sees this as, okay, this person's interested in my company. If I'm a prospect and I go to your website and I download some of your content, that doesn't mean that I want a demo. So if I typically want a demo, there's a nice little neat request a demo button on the side of the content that I can go ahead and talk to someone. But really all I came there for was the value. So you'll see a lot of teams, marketing teams, they gate a user there of like, hey, I want this piece on, the top 5 selling habits of successful closers, or, how successful CFOs run their day to day. And to get that, they have to put in their email. So there's an understanding there that they know that they're going to get hammered with follow-up even though they don't like it. So I think a lot of SDR teams, basically their go-to strategy is, I'm just going to call this lead and I'm going to say, hey, I noticed that you were a part of our webinar. Do you want to have a demo? And this can get your prospect perturbed because all they really wanted to do was attend the webinar. They didn't necessarily want a demo. So that doesn't mean that they aren't a potential lead, but how I structure this is I basically have them deploy strategy of the normal alacrity of an outbound, of like, pretend that this is a cold buyer and I need to research them and tease out information that would make me think that they could be a potential lead for me. And I also want to give them the context, though, of that they were in the webinar. So the key here is that you are researching this person, that you're understanding, how and if, what about them makes you think that they would be a good buyer, and that you're giving them that piece of, they attended a webinar or downloaded your content just for context for them. So the two pieces here are postbound context, and then I transition with, but more importantly, and then I give an outbound reason. So you just don't want to rely on this postbound reason for the majority of your strategy. So how this would look like is this. Hi David, I noticed that you are a part of my the webinar on postbound leads, but more importantly, I saw from your LinkedIn profile that you're a believer in the value of effectiveness. Or hi David, I saw that you attended our webinar on how to consolidate your tech stack, but more importantly, I read your article on LinkedIn talking about producing effective teams through scaled down tech. So you always want to include some kind of personalized outbound reason that helps your buyer understand, yes, I was a part of this webinar, but this SDR went to another degree, another level to understand who I am as a buyer, so that I can earn the respect of my prospect by showing them that I've researched them. So the CMO of Lyft, I think, said it in a really, really elegant way. If you want 15 minutes of my time, give me 5 first by researching me and who I am. So I think we need to make sure here that we're delivering context for them of what they've done, what kind of activity has made you think that they have a little bit more buyer intent or they're a little bit more buyer ready, but then also focusing on delivering value to them and showing that you know who they are and how they could potentially buy your product. So that's it. If you want to hear more about this topic or topics like this, I'm excited to announce that on August 23rd, I'm going to be a part of the Sales Development Conference. So if you want to hear from, other leaders in the industry on topics like this, go to tenbound.com/conference to register, and I'm excited to see you on the 23rd.